Welcome, truth seekers, to Heartfelt Tales, where we don't just report the news, we excavate it. We peel back the layers of power, privilege, and carefully crafted public personas to expose the raw, often unsettling, human stories that lie beneath. And if you value journalism that digs deep, that challenges assumptions, and that delivers the unvarnished truth, then smash that like button and subscribe to Heartfelt Tales right now. Join a community that demands more than just sound bites, become part of the conversation. Tonight, we're venturing behind the gilded gates of Mar-a-Lago, into the heart of a family dynasty that has captivated, and polarized, the world, the Trumps. But this isn't the glossy, airbrushed portrait you've seen on magazine covers. This is a story of simmering resentments, explosive confrontations, and a family pushed to the breaking point. We'll expose the fault lines that run through this seemingly impenetrable family, the jealousies, the ambitions, the power struggles that threaten to tear them apart. You'll hear insider accounts, witness the raw emotion, and see the cracks in the facade of perfection. This isn't just gossip, folks. This is a deep dive into the human condition, a case study in the complexities of family relationships, played out on the grandest of stages. And it's a video packed with crucial context, revealing details, and nuanced analysis you won't find anywhere else. To fully understand the magnitude of what unfolds, you must watch until the very end. Every scene, every word, every subtle gesture holds a key to unlocking the truth. Stay with us. This is Heartfelt Tales. Mar-a-Lago, King of Estates, as Donald Trump still liked to call it, glittered under the Florida sunset. The last rays of the day bathed the pale yellow walls, turned the clear swimming pool into a shimmering sapphire, and transformed the tall palm trees into graceful silhouettes against a fiery sky. The air was deceptively still, as if nature itself were holding its breath. Tonight, the Trump family was gathering for a weekend getaway. In theory, it was an occasion to relax, enjoy the luxury, and strengthen family bonds. But beneath the gleaming surface, the undercurrents of tension and rivalry were swirling. Donald Trump, in his 70s, still maintained the physique and demeanor of a powerful man. His blonde hair was meticulously combed, his dark suit perfectly tailored, and his signature red tie, all contributing to the image of a man who never accepted defeat. Melania Trump, the First Lady, was a perfect statue of elegance and composure. Her close-fitting white dress accentuated her slender figure, her deep blue eyes hiding unfathomable emotions. She was a wife, a stepmother, a woman trying to keep her family from being torn apart by the undercurrents. Donald Trump Jr., the eldest son, was a younger, sharper-edged version of his father, with slick-back hair and intense eyes. He craved recognition, eager to prove himself the worthy heir to the Trump empire. Ivanka Trump, Trump's favorite daughter, was a contrasting image to Don Jr. She was elegant, refined, and had her own political ambitions. She was her father's advisor, a powerful woman in a male-dominated world. Eric Trump, the second son, was often overshadowed by his two more prominent siblings. He was quieter, less ostentatious, and often felt lost in the family. Jared Kushner, Ivanka's husband, was an enigmatic figure, a man with a calm exterior concealing great ambitions. He was Trump's close advisor, but his relationship with Don Jr. was always strained, a silent power struggle. Tiffany Trump, the youngest daughter from Trump's second marriage, rarely appeared at family events. Barron, the youngest son, was too young to fully understand the conflicts unfolding. On the surface, the Trump family was a perfect picture of wealth, power, and happiness. They smiled for the cameras, took pictures together, and showed mutual support. But those who were observant could see the small cracks in that picture. Don Jr.'s cold gaze when Ivanka spoke, Eric's awkward silence during conversations, Melania's fleeting frown when Trump made a controversial remark. They had all gathered around the long, exquisitely set table on the patio, where gentle sea breezes blew, carrying the scent of flowers and the sound of lapping waves. Dinner was about to begin, a sumptuous feast with expensive dishes and fine wines. But under the flickering candlelight, the shadows of discord were gradually becoming clear. The dinner began normally, with polite conversation and compliments about the beautiful scenery. Donald Trump, as usual, dominated the stage, telling stories about his successes, his victories, and his enemies. But the atmosphere gradually became tense. Don Jr., after a few glasses of wine, began to show his annoyance when Ivanka and Jared discussed a new business venture they were collaborating on with a foreign partner. "It seems like you two are trying to build your own empire," Don Jr. said, his tone sarcastic. "No need for help from the family anymore." Ivanka, trying to remain calm, replied. "Don, we've discussed this. It's a good opportunity, and we believe it will benefit the whole family." "Benefit the family, or benefit yourselves?" Don Jr. retorted, his eyes sharp. Jared, who usually maintained a silent demeanor, decided to speak up. "Don, I think you're misunderstanding. We always put the family's interests first." "Oh, really?" Don Jr. scoffed. "Then why wasn't I informed about this project until it was announced in the press?" "We were going to tell you," Ivanka said, her tone somewhat annoyed. "But you're always busy with other things." "Busy? You mean I'm not important enough to be informed about such important matters?" Eric, who had been sitting quietly until now, tried to intervene. "Come on, everyone. We're at a family dinner. Let's not argue." But Don Jr. ignored his younger brother. "No, Eric, let me tell you, Ivanka. You and Jared always think you're better than everyone else. You're always trying to overshadow me, to steal the spotlight." "Don, that's not true," Ivanka said, her tone sharp. "You're being jealous, and you're acting like a child." "Jealous? Of you? Don't flatter yourself, Ivanka. You're nothing without the Trump name." The argument escalated quickly, the words becoming increasingly harsh and offensive. Melania, who was sitting next to Trump, tried to calm the situation. "Children, please," she said, her tone pleading. "Don't make a scene. We are a family." But no one listened to her. Don Jr. and Ivanka continued to insult each other, bringing up old issues to attack each other. Jared tried to defend his wife, but only made Don Jr. even angrier. "You've always been Daddy's favorite," Don Jr. shouted, his face flushed with anger. "You've always been favored, pampered. As for me, I had to strive for myself, prove myself." "That's because you're not capable, Don," Ivanka retorted, her tone cold. "You don't have the vision, the strategy. You just rely on Dad's name to make a profit." "What did you say?" Don Jr. stood up abruptly, slamming his hand on the table, making the glasses and plates rattle. "You dare say I'm not capable?" Jared stood up, standing in front of Ivanka. "Don, calm down. Don't make a scene." "Get out of the way, Jared," Don Jr. snarled. "This isn't your business." The two men stood facing each other, as tense as two boxers before a fight. Melania and Eric tried to intervene, but to no avail. Donald Trump, who had been silently observing until now, finally spoke up. "Enough," he roared, his voice echoing across the garden. "What the hell are you doing? This is a family dinner, not a boxing ring." But his anger couldn't extinguish the fire that was burning. Don Jr. and Ivanka, hurt and angry, continued to argue, neither willing to back down. Finally, Don Jr. couldn't take it anymore. "I can't stand this," he said, his tone full of bitterness. "I'm out of here." He turned and walked away, leaving behind a tense and heavy atmosphere. The family dinner was over, with no one touching the food. After the argument, Mar-a-Lago was shrouded in a heavy, suffocating atmosphere. The members of the Trump family, already having underlying rifts, were now completely separated. Don Jr. Locked himself in his room, drinking and brooding over Ivanka's words. He felt betrayed, hurt, and undervalued. He called a close friend, venting his feelings. "I can't believe she said that," Don Jr. said, his tone bitter. "She thinks I'm incompetent, that I'm just a freeloader. She's forgotten everything I've done for this family." His friend tried to comfort him, but Don Jr. couldn't be calmed. He felt like he had lost everything: his father's respect, his siblings' support, and his place in the family. Ivanka and Jared, after returning to their room, also discussed the situation. Ivanka felt remorse for saying harsh words to Don Jr., but she also believed she was right. "I can't stand his attitude," Ivanka said, her tone tired. "He's always jealous, always trying to bring me down. I can't work with him anymore." Jared hugged his wife, comforting her. "I understand, honey. But we have to find a way to resolve this. We can't let the family break apart." "I don't know, Jared," Ivanka said, her tone desperate. "I don't know if we can mend this relationship." The two decided to leave Mar-a-Lago early the next morning. They didn't want to stay another minute. Eric, who was often overlooked in family disputes, wandered alone in the vast mansion. He felt lonely and lost. He tried to contact Don Jr. and Ivanka, but no one answered. He wondered if his family would ever be the same again. He feared that these cracks would never heal. Melania, after witnessing her stepchildren's argument, felt extremely worried. She knew that her family was on the verge of collapse. She sought out Donald Trump, who was sitting alone in his study, looking pensive. "Donald, we have to do something," Melania said, her tone urgent. "Our children are drifting apart. We can't let that happen." Trump sighed, rubbing his temples. "I know, Melania. I know. But I don't know what to do. They're so stubborn, so proud." "You have to talk to them," Melania said. "You have to remind them of the importance of family, of love and forgiveness." Trump was silent for a moment, thinking about his wife's words. He realized that she was right. He had to act, before it was too late. The next morning, Trump requested that all family members gather in his study. The atmosphere in the room was as tense as a drawn bowstring. Don Jr., Ivanka, Eric, Jared, and Melania sat around the large desk, no one daring to look each other in the eye. They were still angry, hurt, and full of doubt. Trump, looking serious, began to speak. "I called you here today," he said, his tone lower than usual, "because I can't stand this situation anymore. Our family is falling apart, and I can't let that happen." He paused, looking at each of his children, his gaze filled with concern. "I know you have disagreements, conflicts," he continued. "But I believe that nothing is more important than family. Nothing is more important than love and unity." He turned to Don Jr. and Ivanka, who were sitting opposite each other, their gazes still filled with anger. "Don, Ivanka," he said, his tone softening. "I know you two have differences, but you are siblings. You must learn to forgive each other, to cooperate with each other." Don Jr. and Ivanka remained silent, neither willing to give in. Trump sighed. He realized that he needed to do something different, something that could touch his children's hearts. And then, he began to tell a story. A story about the past, about family, about the difficulties and challenges they had overcome together. "Do you remember," he said, his tone warm and nostalgic, "when I was a young real estate developer, when I was still struggling to build my career? Back then, our family wasn't as wealthy as it is now. We had to live in a small apartment in Queens, and I had to work day and night to make a living." He paused, closing his eyes, as if recalling distant memories. "There were times when I almost went bankrupt," he continued. "There were times when I thought about giving up. But I didn't. I kept fighting, for my family, for my children." He opened his eyes, looking at his children with a loving gaze. I taught you to always be strong, to always be resilient, to always fight for what you believe in. But I also want you to understand that true strength doesn't lie in stubbornness, it doesn't lie in winning at all costs, but in love, in forgiveness, in unity. He told stories about the family's beautiful memories, about trips, birthday parties, warm Christmas holidays. He reminded his children of the happy moments they had shared, the difficulties they had overcome together. Gradually, the atmosphere in the room began to change. The tension lessened, the anger dissipated, and tears began to roll down the cheeks of the family members. Don Jr. was the first to speak. "Dad," he said, his voice choked with emotion. "I'm sorry. I acted like a child. I let jealousy and anger cloud my judgment." Ivanka also spoke up. "I'm sorry too, Dad. I was too stubborn, too competitive. I didn't think things through." Jared and Eric also expressed their remorse. They admitted that they had been too focused on work, neglecting their family. Melania smiled, tears rolling down her cheeks. She felt relieved that, finally, her family had overcome the storm. Trump hugged each of his children, comforting them. "I love you," he said, his tone emotional. "And I'm proud of you. I know you'll get through this. We'll get through this, together." Finally, after hours of talking, arguing, and crying, the Trump family had found harmony again. They had forgiven each other, overlooked each other's mistakes, and promised to try harder to maintain family relationships. Donald Trump created a new family rule, that nobody would yell and argue in front of Barron. That afternoon, the Trump family gathered together at the Mar-a-Lago pool. Don Jr. and Ivanka, after making up, were able to talk to each other comfortably, even teasing each other about things that had happened. Jared and Eric played table tennis together, laughter echoing throughout the garden. Melania sat next to Trump, smiling happily. Barron, the youngest boy, was playing in the pool, splashing water everywhere. Trump looked at his children, his heart filled with love. He had gone through a long day, a day full of tension and emotion. But in the end, he had succeeded. He had kept his family together. He realized that, no matter how much money, how much power, family is still the most important thing. Family is where we find love, support, and forgiveness. Family is where we can be ourselves, without having to wear a mask, without having to pretend. The story ends with the image of the Trump family gathered together, happy and peaceful. But it's not a completely happy ending. The scars are still there, and conflicts may arise again in the future. But at least, at this moment, the Trump family had weathered the storm. They had learned a valuable lesson about the importance of love, forgiveness, and unity. And they were ready to face the next challenges, together. The storm has passed, or has it? The Trumps have weathered this crisis, at least for now. Apologies have been offered, tears have been shed, and a fragile truce has been declared. But the underlying tensions, the simmering resentments, the unspoken rivalries, those remain. The question is, can a family built on power, ambition, and a relentless pursuit of success truly heal? Can love and forgiveness overcome the deep-seated wounds of jealousy and betrayal? Or is this just a temporary reprieve, a brief moment of calm before the next storm erupts? We want to hear your verdict. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Did Trump's attempt at reconciliation ring true? Which family member's perspective resonated with you the most? What does this family drama reveal about the nature of power and relationships? Let's dissect this together. If this in-depth exploration of the Trump family saga moved you, informed you, or simply made you think, please show your support by giving this video a thumbs up and sharing it with your network. Help us spread the word about Heartfelt Tales. And, most importantly, if you're hungry for more stories that go beyond the surface, that challenge the conventional narrative, and that expose the human heart in all its complexity, then become a subscriber. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss a new investigation from Heartfelt Tales. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey. Until next time, keep searching for the truth, keep questioning the narratives, and keep listening to the power of heartfelt tales.